we got? Oh yeah. Welcome everyone. Here, let me turn that off. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Weird the Way the Leaf. This is Tavern Talk. Happens every Sunday. We are here. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. I hope everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Gnome Garden, I hope that you get out of that dang place and get off your app real soon. Much yellow Aja love to you. We got some guests besides Jansen, my best friend next to me here, who is here each and every Sunday. Ryan hopefully will be here soon. I am Ryan's brother Dan. We have a couple of new faces here. We got Glenn the Geeky Hippie.
Hi there.
From reading the pattern. Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks
How
for
are you doing
us.
tonight?
Oh.
Thanks for having us on. Yeah.
Well, I'm thankful for you to be here. 'Tis the season. And
Yes,
we're
it is.
here to talk about the Amazon series. We are doing a rewatch, WOTCH. You see what we did?
Nice.
And we are on episode 4 called The Dragon Reborn. And for our first guests to come on, we wanted to get Glenn.
Thank
who
you.
Was there for our very first show, guys. The very first show we did, the
Long time
LeafCast,
ago.
a long time ago. We were both knee high to a grasshopper.
A little bit taller than that, maybe. In your case.
Look how we've blossomed. And Rebecca. So, guys, you guys do a project together. Why don't you guys talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Rebecca?
Okay. All right. So Glenn and I are 2/4 of a YouTube channel called What the Adaptation, aka What the Adaptation, when we talk about the Wheel of Time. But we cover all kinds of adaptations. Basically, we've talked mainly about TV shows, but anytime when one piece of media is adapted into a new form, we might be covering that. So we're talking about the Sandman right now. So that's interesting because we've got the graphic novels, the comics, the audio version, and then the Netflix TV show. So that's been fun.
Interesting. Go ahead.
We even covered the Wheel of Time game a while back with the other two partners we had, Jen and Max. We talked about that for an episode.
The computer game from the 90s or 80s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the one Glenn Dahlgren or something like that. I don't remember. He was done the Dusty Wheel a couple of times. Another Glenn who's in the Wheel of Time community, but he's the showrunner. He only spells it with one N, though.
Well, I watched Unraveling the Pattern do a live stream when he was playing it once, and while it seemed kind of a little crude, it had elements that were really fun. And I kind of wanted. I only played platform games. I never played computer games. I don't know.
Yeah.
If it says Wheel of Time, I play it. Why not? I'm in.
It's a good policy.
Were you able to figure out the collectible card game, Jansen?
I have it here at home.
You figured it out? Because we tried playing it, and we're a bunch of Magic players. We could not figure that game out.
I have had it for about, 6 years now?
Yeah.
Got it from my best friend who found it at a garage sale and sent it to me.
Wow.
Over cross country, and I just sat and read every. And I'm pretty proficient.
Tech Monster. Fight it, Jansen. Fight it.
We
Good.
Right.
Good. He's back.
There, you're back. You kind of froze on us there, little Jansen. I think he's still frozen. All right, there he is.
No, he's not.
Am I missing?
We tried.
All right. Sorry. I love the ingenuity that's going on. Apparently, there's another person in the community named James who did another card-based game that is kind of sweeping the community.
A board game, I think.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I've heard about people trying that out. Sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. One played on Critter's channel.
Yeah, I think they've
Okay.
been playing it on Critters Channel. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So are we
Yeah.
about to dive? There's my boy.
There's your
And,
point. Well, let's jump into this.
let's jump in.
This is,
Yep.
yeah. It's
And
called
before we
The
start-
Dragon Reborn. It was the 4th episode, and it starts off with Logain destroying Gildon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And before we start, let's tell everybody out there that this is a big spoiler, okay? There's going to be a lot of spoilers in this. So if you have not read the entire series and you don't want to be surprised by things and you want to be able to read it through, stop right now, because we're going to tell you a lot of things and you're going to get a lot of information that you don't know about yet. So that's just one quick warning. And if you have, enjoy the show. We have a lot to talk about today.
Yep, indeed. This is a fun episode, actually. I like this episode. On rewatch,
I think it's one of the top 3 of the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
For a number of reasons.
I can't argue.
The first being that we start off, the first 3 episodes, I had noticed that they had started using 10 chapters each from the book. And this one, the last 30 to 40, the chapters start out with Play for Your Supper, which I thought was a very, very lighthearted chapter in the book, which, had some smiles, had some, interesting things, and started to delve into some of the characters a little more. And it went all the way to, let's see, what was episode 40 is, chapter 40 is the Web Titans.
Okay.
So now they did have to, move off a little bit from that, structure for this chapter because they started doing some of the big changes that they did. They took out of the book and added to the show because, and they were good reasons for some of that, and we see this from the very, very opening. The very opening is in Gildon. And and they bring that because of the big, big, big reveal on the previous episode of Logain Ablar. We also get Leandrin, who's also been introduced prior to this, but we know that she's going to be in this new upcoming episode and be a major part of it. So we start off in Gildon, and with the King of Gildon and Logain. And that brings me to the first thing that they did in production that they couldn't do, obviously, in the book. And we're also talking about a production that was having some trouble because of COVID-19. And they had to make some shortcuts. They had to do a couple of things that they didn't want to do. They had a lot less personnel, and they only, this was a war. So a war had a lot of people. They didn't get to cast that many soldiers for this episode because of COVID-19. And I believe that they did the best that they could do with that, as far as the computer generation from afar away and seeing, soldiers running in and all those things. And I'll stop right there right now. If Rebecca and Glenn have anything they want to talk about, that's just the opening, but there's so much in this opening that we can start.
I was always really happy about the fact that they used Alcazar in Segovia, Spain, as the castle where they filmed it. It's one of the most iconic images, of a castle / palace in Europe. At least to me, it's always been. I've always been a fan of the design of it. But seeing them actually film on the battlements of a real castle, not every series gets to do that.
Isn't that in Sevilla?
Segovia. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Segovia, yeah.
Yeah, I had forgotten that they did film, the cold open with Logain and Gildon. That was a pickup. Those were pickup shots after. So that was, post COVID-19. I'd kind of forgotten about that. But you're absolutely right. So it does make you wonder what they might have planned in terms of battle for that cold open that they might not have been able to do. But what I think is that then they didn't really try to do a full-scale battle here. You know, if that had been their intention, they made the focus really between Logain and the King of Gildan, which is, I think that's great because it makes it a character-focused cold open.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think we do need to start to understand like who Logain is, and that was a great way to do it. What I liked about it was you can understand like why people are afraid of him, right? They show him initially as someone that is an object of fear, and you understand why. And then by the end of the cold open, you understand why people would follow him also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was only like 5 or 6 minutes long, that little thing, and it showed so much about what I personally feel about false dragons. I think I don't blame a false dragon. I mean, Jansen and I have talked about this. If you walk on water, why not think you're Jesus, right? I mean, if you can do these things, and he seems altruistic. Although the term bind does have several meanings to it, in regards to being the antithesis of breaking, it does work. And to your point, Rebecca, you can certainly see why people rally around this man, not just because he has power, but he has charisma and seems to have understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one other thing that they did do, you know, in the books, I got the feeling that I didn't understand, and this is a very small thing, but I didn't get completely why so many false dragons wanted to say that they were the Dragon Reborn. With everyone knowing that one of the first things to become the Dragon Reborn, you had to be born on Dragon Mount. And in the book, I got the feeling that everyone knew that. In the show, however, they have said multiple times how so many a different version of the Carithian cycle is in every town and every city. Yeah. So people might not know that is one of the criteria to be born on Dragon Mount, the slopes of Dragon Mount, because I loved the devotion that Logain had to himself. He truly believed he was the Dragon Reborn, and he really, really felt that. Now, I can't say that about every other, false dragon, but he really believed it, and I loved how they did that. I love that.
And some might, like you said, might just be opportunistic, right? We don't know. We haven't gotten to know all these other ones, but some might just be looking for power and not believe it. But you're right that we are learning that he does.
When Lan was talking to Moraine in this, when Lan was talking to Moraine, he doesn't mention, well, he was born in Gildon or whatever. He says he's too old.
Too old.
Yeah.
So who knows if it is
10 years too old at least.
Yeah, go on, Glenn.
I just want to point out, I think this is the scene of the entire season where we get Steve.
Oh, yeah?
I think you got a Losha on the one side, and the other taint puppet, I think, which we never got a name for, I think that's Steve. I really do think that's where his voice went.
I wonder, I do wonder if what series knows anything about that, because I feel like, I was pretty sure that they had thought Steve was going to be in a cut Logain scene. But it is possible if he was going to be in the cut Logain scene, if he was also in this one. But I wonder if they know anything about that actor. But I think they did know that he was supposed to be in a different Logain scene that didn't make it into the show. So
we do. You had mentioned Alusha. That is the name of at least one of the whisperers that he is hearing, because we read that in the captions.
Yep. And in the X-ray.
Yeah, and in the X-ray. I wonder how much they rely on that. I had learned it was the Grinwell farm because I read it in the captions.
There's a lot in the X-ray, and basically, if you're watching the show and you're not looking at X-ray and you don't have the captions on as you watch, you're missing some stuff. So that's just something to keep in mind for anybody who is rewatching, especially if you didn't watch it that way the first time. Like, do it on a rewatch.
And I contend Any
Go ahead.
sci-fi or fantasy show, you really should be watching with captions because it helps you pick up on proper nouns and other unique terms and words.
Not only do I watch with captions, I watch with visually impaired as well. So they give narrations and won't state names until that person is named on screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah. I actually haven't tried that. I meant to try that because I was curious like how that.
Well,
I've
and
done
we
that
learned,
to a few shows.
We learned so when Nynaeve is cleaning the pools and Moraine comes and visits her, the sight impaired aide says Moraine walks in as Nynaeve is cleaning the color ceremony pool.
Right.
Which is a cutscene, but we know what happens there, you know.
Yeah.
So, which I thought was fun. Go ahead, Jets.
Oh no! Finish what you're saying because I'm about to segue us into another part.
So, what do you guys like the black? Does the black itself, because when he first channels, it's white and then it turns black, right? When he blocks the spears.
Yeah.
And then it's black from then on out. Is the black the taint or is the black the color sight in?
No, the black is definitely
it's the corruption. It's the corruption.
It's the oil
We don't have a taint.
Right.
We don't have oil.
It's the oil slick.
I don't dislike it, but it's not how I would have told the CG crew to do it. Not at all, but...
Well, we also know that in season 2, we may be seeing more detail about the flows themselves, like you know, maybe like more variations in color for the different like elements of the power. But it will be interesting to see how they do that with Sidene because there's still going to be the corruption there, and I feel like that would inevitably obscure that to some extent. But I do like that they are showing us a visual because I mean it's an adaptation. You can't describe the feeling of it in the same way that you can in the book. So you want to have something to show that there's something wrong with it.
Yeah,
so it makes sense that they do it.
Yeah.
I will say that Logain does not seem affected by the taint. Besides hearing these mysterious voices, it doesn't seem like he is fighting. There's not that bio per se, but who knows if that's kind of how this will go.
He's so like stoic throughout most of this episode, so that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, he's extremely confident.
Definitely that.
He's extremely
because we don't see enough past him at the end of the cold open to know how he reacts after channeling, and we never have that time later in the episode to see him reacting after his channeling. So I don't think based on this episode we have enough to know either way whether he is getting the bile, you know, the sick to the stomach or any kind of physical reaction to it.
Yeah,
we do know he is influenced by it.
Right.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we definitely know he's influenced by it.
And is even snarky back to it. He's like, "You would like that, wouldn't you?" If I heard someone say that in front of me, like we're standing at a bus stop, waiting, and a guy turns around to his left shoulder and he's like, "Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you?"
Yeah.
He'd probably leave the bus stop.
The king notices that and reacts. You know, so that goes even more strongly to Logain's charisma and like, you know, strength of will, because like the king of Gildan has seen that and he reacts to it, and then in the end he still decides to follow him. So it's like, okay, this guy's mad, but I'm gonna follow you anyway.
If Alvaro Morte kneels down in front of you and that music is playing, you'll convert too.
Right. That was Messiah music.
Well, I mean, also he healed his wounds.
Yeah.
Gave him back the dagger that he used against him.
And like reaches out to him.
He won him. I mean, that was a fantastic showing of winning someone over. I mean, like, what it also showed everyone was that Logain, at least in Logain's mind, is not a bad guy.
Right, exactly.
You know, he is like, okay, I will accept being the person that has to save the world. And he wants to do it. You know, he's willing to do it. So, you know, that, and I think that's going to help a lot with his character development over the next episodes because we also know that he's going to be in more of these episodes than he was in the book per se.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Jansen, also let's keep in mind that what we know of the Aes Sedai from the show is mostly fear and distrust, which is in the books, I guess, as well, but it's defined more readily where he's like, the White Cloaks are right. You guys are all witches, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, even Lord Master Hightower was like, I've heard the rumors. So they are fighting this propaganda that Logain may be like, I mean, instead of being Leandrin, who's a bully, man, he's coming and kneeling with you, bro. He's healing you. He's there. I'd follow him. He's handsome.
And better healing than the Aes Sedai.
What, until
true.
Nynaeve.
I think that
Right.
that's true, though. You're right, though. He heals without leaving a scar. It shows that he is very strong in the power.
Very, very
Because
strong.
very soon you see Karenni heal Moraine and leave a scar. And she's very powerful among the Aes Sedai. So Logain is even more so.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think
So-
Moiraine left a scar on Tam, so.
I can't remember, but maybe, yeah.
Yes. But also those were done by Trolloc blades. So we have to consider that as well.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
have to consider that they had Dark One's taint on them.
Good point.
So maybe
Also a good point, yeah.
we have to think about that.
Yeah.
Guys,
So-
by the way,
and
there's 22 people watching. Thank you very much, each and every person who is
we love
here.
you guys.
We certainly love you.
Thanks for
Thank you
watching,
being
everybody.
here Sunday
I think
with
one of
us.
them actually might be my mom. Mom, I love you.
Aw. Hi, Jensen's mom.
Hi.
Well, hey, you done well, Mrs. Jansen's mom.
That's Mrs. Reverend Dr. Reginald Savaya is who she is.
Okay, there you go.
Big mouthful, but
You know what?
strong
It sounds like
lady
you
with a
earn
strong-
every
I'm sure she's
title,
earned it.
though. Doctor.
My mom and dad back in Ohio are watching, and I love them both, and I'm glad that they're there.
Sweet.
Well,
And,
as Glenn and I are from Michigan, tell your parents our condolences.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll get them next year.
Yesterday was a
Ohio-
bad day for you.
Yesterday wasn't the best day.
Not the best. But the Browns won today.
Well, oh yeah.
And,
Of course, I'm sure the English can't be happy the Americans tied them in this World Cup game for that. So.
Ole, ole, ole.
yeah, they're going to be pissed. But, okay, so from the cold intro from Logain, what we get is a lot of new characters to talk about right now that have been introduced in this episode. And we find ourselves in the Aes Sedai camp. And in that camp, we meet some Aes Sedai. And we also meet some characters that were not even in the Eye of the World.
Yeah.
And they used these characters to help show us a lot of different things. Those characters being Korean Nagashi, her warder Maxim.
Steppen.
Maxim
Maxim is one of Alana's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maxim is Alana. Yes, Steppen. I'm very sorry about that. Steppen. And Steppen was not introduced into the Wheel of Time until later on when they did literally a prequel of the books. And they went back in time, and Steppen was a warder who looked like a clerk. And once he found out, yes, he looked like a clerk. Although him and Karina died early in that, they used them in a beautiful way on the show. And they used them to talk about warders, the bond with Aes Sedai. They used them to show how strong that bond is. And in the books, many, many times, this bond is stronger than husbands and wives. It's stronger than fathers and mothers and children. It's stronger than friends. It is something that is sacred to this group of people. And I believe that they showed us that very, very in awesome ways. You know, they were allowed to get a little more risque in the show than they are in the books.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that they portrayed the Green Aja fantastically.
Yes.
Yes.
No argument there.
Lan is shown way more loose in the show than on the books.
Yes.
With Moraine being on the watch, staring at Logain, book Lan would have been 4 feet behind her, just kind of standing for hours, not having drinks by the campfire, getting rivings, like I tracked him. They're like, whoa, snap. And Lan's like, yeah, I know.
I love it though. I mean, we get so little of warders in the books, little really. And so here we're really getting to see them like as they interact with each other, just getting to see like what drives men to become warders. There's just so much here. And as you said, Jansen, the bond, right? We're getting so much really in play in front of us about the bond, and not just through Moraine and Lan, although we get more from them too, I think, in general.
Oh yes, definitely. And it was also very wonderful how they used, the warders, how they, operate with their Aes Sedai and with each other to help cool Nynaeve down a little bit and open her up to not just the warders, but the Aes Sedai and the White Tower in general.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They kind of helped her lose some of those screens, and she, she smiled, she laughed, she was having a good time with all of them, and this also helped segue her relationship with Lan.
Yeah.
Like it was it was beautifully done how they changed that for production so we could see it and not just read about it.
Right. Yeah. She also straight out addresses, you guys follow them. You're their dogs. And they're like, no, man, we serve them proudly and this is how it is. And she's like, light bulb.
And that scene right there where the warders say, where Stepan actually, says the definition of Aes Sedai, servants of all. And
first time on the show.
And it says, and when Nynaeve says, and I have to believe this is, for at least for me, was a very powerful moment. Like, well, what does that make you? Proud.
Right.
It's one word, and that's one of the beauties of film for me. And yes, I love film.
Yeah,
film is awesome to me. It is such a fantastic venue and medium to get to the masses and to people. I love it. And the way just one word can sometimes be one of the strongest things in a scene. Yeah. And they said, what does that make you? It makes us proud.
The way I even watched this watch was, so we have the beautiful relationship we were introduced to with Moraine and Swan Sanche. Gosh, the mature, loving, awesome relationship we got in a 5-minute span, which we agree is probably better than anything Robert Jordan kind of presented in all 14 books. And now we have another gay couple who is, it's beautiful. We should recognize that what they're doing on screen is presenting relationships in such a loving, genuine way that when you have two warders kind of cuddling there, well, sure, why wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? Right? And
I agree.
So the way that it was presented here, the fact that it's just Nynaeve brings it up, like, are they all gonna fuck?
Well, see, that's the thing. And you said a gay couple. I have to believe they're a bi couple.
Well,
yes, right. They're a couple. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
they're not even a couple. They're 2/3 of a thruple.
Yeah, a thruple.
I misspoke. And we learn it later. I guess what we see is just two dudes snuggling, and it's awesome. Yeah. And it's warders went to school together just like the Aes Sedai did. These bonds occur. We see Lan and Stepan, while trying to work out, are giggling and ripping each other and doing these fun things because they're friends, man. And
and they're a brother.
Cool to see. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love that too. And so been listening to the podcast Queers of Time, And like they were talking about like the Maxim. I did it. No, I did it. The Maxima and Yvonne like scene with them at the fire is just like a great example of like incidental queerness. Like it's not the scene isn't about that. It's just like that's just who they are. They're just existing in a scene, and that's part of it.
Yes.
But it's not like we don't have to make a thing out of it. They're just there, and we get to see it, and that they're really cute, like very
I love
sweet.
that term.
Yeah.
Incidental queerness is awesome.
And loving with each other, and then we get the further layer of, oh no, they're not just a gay couple, they're in a bisexual throuple. And and even that isn't, I mean, Nynaeve like raises a little bit of an eyebrow at that, but like then she's kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't know that was a thing, but it's all fine, you know? So it's just I don't know, it's just nice to see that just existing in a world.
This episode is the blossoming of Nynaeve. I mean, so she learns about this phrase that she has been saying for her whole life. And I love how Moiraine and Lan like just spring knowledge on the Edmund Fielders. They like so Matt and the boys and they all sing the song of Manetheren, and she's like, "Huh, that's a good song. It's nice to remember. You want to know what it's about?" You know, and they're like, "Okay." And so she says this, and Lan's like, "I didn't know you know the old tongue." She's like, "I don't even know what it means." He's like,
"Yeah,
you want to know?"
We'll see. Like I told the rest of my team last year when we first talked about this episode, this single episode alone does more to establish Lan and Nynaeve as a couple, than like the first dozen or so books of the series.
Yes.
You know, even after they're married, I still didn't really get them as a couple. It's just because it was there suddenly with no build up, and I was stubborn about it. It's like it's just thrown in. But watching them on the show and seeing them develop, you know, and it's just this shy little, you know, behavior towards each other that just develops and builds. And I wish we could see more of what happened in that month between this episode and next, you know. Yeah. But I get the impression she made more friends with Steppen during that month of travel than with anybody else.
Yeah, so. I think so. Like she knew he needed someone, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree how much this episode does for them and their relationship. It's huge, and I love it. I mean, I get them in the books. But I will say that what's there, especially in the Eye of the World, is so subtle. Like you really have to be looking for it. And I mean, and you can pull it out. Like there's the subtleties there of, you know, the way they are sort of like recognizing each other's competence. I love that about them, right? Like one of the things that attracts them to each other is like they both realize, oh, that person is like very competent, and that's like a turn on, you know. So that's kind of a cool thing. And then just like the slight competition that they have with each other. And so those very subtle things, but none of it is really explored. And so that's a huge gift of the show, to get to see them actually explore it and to get to see them have these moments, these conversations with each other. I love that for them.
I mean, honestly, in the books, the Tom and Moiraine went over my head. The Lan and Moiraine, the Lan and Nynaeve, rather, you know, like a lot of these relationships, the Matt and Tuon, like most of them, I just didn't want to be anywhere near, like Perrin and Fael. I did not want to be any part of that. I didn't want to be any part of, like, even Elaine and Rand, and maybe Min and Rand. I could hang with Min and Rand, you know.
Robert Jordan, you know, romance writing was not really his thing. So
no.
But half of these relationships, they are like destined to do. Min's like, I saw a vision. Elaine's like, oh yeah, me too. You know, Moraine's like,
there's a lot of that. Yeah, it's fair. People seeing things in doorways and ter'angreals and you know, and visions and whatnot. Yeah.
So, and in these scenes, before we switch over, while they are still in the Caroline Grass, you know, marching towards Tarvalon, we see a couple of other big things too. We see Liandrin and the Red Aja, you know, in full force. And one of the crazy things for me is that I'm still trying to figure this out because I'm wondering whether or not, they bring up, Steppen brings up to Karina, I heard that they're already gentling people in the countryside.
Yeah.
Well, we know that's true.
And Moraine knows it's true.
And Moraine and Lan knows it's true.
Lan.
And we know that she is going against the Amyrlin's wishes already.
Mm-hmm.
So, spoiler alert, are all the Reds?
Yeah, I know.
Are they all bad, or are, because we saw the defining moment for me was when you saw Karina and you saw the other Aes Sedai literally standing by their, I guess you could say, values and the wishes of the Amyrlin.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, defying the Amyrlin does not necessarily make you a dark friend.
No.
But it does not leave you in good graces with the rest of the Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
So they're which the Reds never were anyway. At least with most of the other Ajahs. So that's still something that's up in the air for me because it wasn't just Liandrin. Liandrin seems to be the leader of all these Reds who are out here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't make her the leader of all the Reds in the White Tower, but she has some power. They are showing us that she is definitely an influential Aes Sedai and one of great power.
Yeah, they're giving her a lot more influence, I think, than... I mean, it's hard to say. Liandrin has some influence in the books, but I think this Liandrin has more.
Way more. I think way more.
Why are they even camping?
Are
they for people? I mean, why just?
It isn't clear. I assume.
Oh, it is. It's clear.
Is it okay? Because I assumed they needed rest.
They went out. The Amyrlin sent this group out to capture Logain and bring him back to the White Tower.
Right.
Yeah, but they're just camping for days.
Why are they? Yeah, why are they basically hanging out in one spot for a couple days? I assume they need some kind of traveling.
I mean, you would have to camp at night. I mean, they're months. Remember, they even say they're months away from the White Tower, and with
hundreds of miles.
The strongest Aes Sedai in this group are not wasting, but they're literally using their strength to keep him at bay, to keep him shielded. And that's and we see how much that's taking out of them. It's taking a tremendous amount of effort for them to hold his power. So I think that would definitely slow this group down.
Yeah. But we only see
a night or two, right? Instead of stopping for just one night, they're stopping for 2 nights, maybe just to catch up, take a breath. But
this episode, we see part of one day, we see a night, and part of the next day.
Right.
And it's on that second day that the attack happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can't tell how long they had been. I'm assuming they hadn't camped since the time, we ran into them at the end of the last episode when they see them on the road.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that this is the first spot they stop at. So this literally could be the very next day after Moraine and them caught up to them.
I agree with that.
So
I agree with that.
Yeah, it did seem like they weren't heading out immediately, they were kind of hanging the next day, as opposed to packing up. But like I said, I could also see a situation where they decide, okay, we're taking a full day and 1 extra night rest before we move on, because they just might need that periodically. So
and they keep in mind they just got another very powerful sister with them to help with the burden of Logain.
Yeah, which is a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so after that, we have our characters. We have so many people that we've been introduced to, as far as, that are with Lan and Nynaeve and Moraine. And then we switch over because we have other characters that are we still care about and that are still doing things. And we've got Rand and Mat with Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got Perrin and Egwene with the traveling people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe... Now, I'm not going to start with Rand and Mat for a few reasons. I'm going to start with Egwene and Perrin because I believe that this was obviously was hugely impactful for Perrin. With the wolves and with some of the things that they showed with them, like, you know, they did so many subtle things in this episode with them that they talked about in the book, as far as Perrin not even being able to sleep because of the wolf dream bothering him so much, you know, even though every time he does go into the wolf dream, it's trying to warn him of danger, and the things and protect him. And we start with there it is, and you know, we start with them, and we delve into. We have a little more character development with the Tuatha.
Yeah.
And I really like, and here are some of the differences. I'm going to go back to the differences between the book and the show. Now, in the book, Aram was all about getting with Egwene.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted a piece of that, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they milded him down. They dulled him down a little bit from that in the show, which I thought was a very, very good move. Because they helped, you know, they not only helped describe so many things about the Tuatha, but it also, you know, it showed that Egwene is not some stupid ditzy girl who's going to fall for a pretty face. You know, like in the book, that she got, you know, a little bit flushed, you know. Her cheeks got a little bit red. She's like, oh, this boy who can dance, you know, and they didn't do that. And I really like that they didn't do that for her character development, because Egwene is not some stupid little girl who's going to fall for a pretty face. Now, that being said, there is one pretty face that she may not be able to do that against, you know, later on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jansen, they do actually address this in the episode itself when Aram sits next to her and says, what's his name? Who broke his... Who shook your heart?
And I love that they went that direction. I do like that they went that direction.
So he's not a creeper. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think they're doing a couple of things here. One, first of all, they're letting the audience fall in love with the character of Aram. So that when things happen down the road, it hurts.
Right. As opposed to
that's how you elicit. That's how you elicit more emotion. By you make us like him. Aram in the books is a jackass.
Yeah.
Jackass.
Nobody. And see, I always found that to be weird, because I wouldn't think of just everything else Jordan was trying to tell us about the Tuatha. A jackass Tuatha just didn't seem to fit. You know, it's like a really nice white cloak. It doesn't seem to fit until you meet Galah. You know.
Yeah.
So, I think they repaired the character.
I do too.
From
where. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think Jordan. Yeah, I think Jordan went the wrong way with, you know, treating Aram to begin with in the first book. So,
yeah,
I think the show kind of tried to blend the two. So Aram, in my opinion, is one of the more real characters in the books, in that he's this teenager that is stuck with his parents or grandparents into this philosophy that he thinks is kind of poo-poo-y to a little bit, right? He grew up in it, but he grabbed the sword, right? So no other true tinker that we know of would have even done that. So the fact that Aaron grabbed the sword was to me truth. This was, even though I didn't think it was good for him, I acknowledged it. And instead, this Aram speaks of like a Amish rumspringer for tinkers, where you can go and sow your oats, go do cocaine in Times Square, and then come back. You know, and
they also took another huge character change from him as well, with his mother already being dead.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, it's a big deal.
So, you know, that's a very, as far as his character arc on the show, I mean, on the books, that is gigantic for this character.
The other thing that is really, I think, a big deal that they're accomplishing here with him is that they're showing that he has doubts, that he doesn't fully buy into this philosophy in the same way that his grandmother does, for instance. Like in the way that he talks about it, he's more lighthearted. He doesn't believe that they're going to find the song, for instance, right? He says that he doesn't believe that.
He does.
So we see the seeds in him of someone who might leave the way of the leaf, but he's not a jerk, right? He's
and
sweet,
they're also setting it up, and
this
this is a production thing. They're also setting it up so he is going to be a major character later on. And one of the other reasons why that is because it's Daryl McCormack, and he is an amazing actor.
Yes.
So I agree, but I have to say I have major anxiety about him not being able to come back to the show because he's Daryl McCormack.
I know. He's right at the precipice of breaking in right now. So
like, why doesn't everybody hire him? He's so
he's already in like 6 different productions coming out. Like he's gonna be
So that's my worry.
And that's one of mine too. And something else, this is a side thing, but we also get probably one of the most beautiful moments we get when it comes to Tuathon, when Isla talks to her about the Tuathon. And her name is Maria Doyle Kennedy, actually, is the name of this actress. She's amazing.
What a monologue.
Love her.
Oh, my God. It was the best one of the series, I have to say. It had to be up there. I don't see any of them that rival that because of what it encapsulated. It encapsulated a religion and why she does what she does. Yeah. And I don't think it could have been done more beautifully.
No.
Yeah, it was.
Years ago, before she was announced being cast, I had pushed her for Elida. And when they announced she's going to be on the show, I was like, Elida. And then I hear Isla, and I was disappointed until this episode.
Yeah.
And then I understood. I've been a fan of hers for a long time, probably going back to the Tudors, if not before. But I'm also a big Orphan Black fan, and Mrs. S is just, this is a very different character than Mrs. S was. But I think this is probably my favorite performance of hers, just for that scene alone.
And being an actor,
Aaron,
I am 99% sure part of this monologue was her audition.
Oh yeah.
I have to believe that, and I have to believe that when she did this, they were like, we have to. There's no way we can turn this woman away.
Jansen, you are right. I mean, the line, "What greater revenge against violence than peace? What greater revenge against death than life?"
Yep.
This kind of you have to present that. You have to be able to say that. I can see that they would just say that. Just say that.
Yeah.
It was,
I think it was really selling us too. I mean, and selling Perrin to a degree as well on this choice, right? Which I think a lot of people, when they read, have a hard time relating to. And I think I relate to the Tuatha'an and the Way of the Leaf more than the average Wheel of Time fan. Like that is a culture that if I were going to put myself in the Wheel of Time, that would be my culture. Obviously not you guys. I'm not talking about you guys.
Wait. But, you're not a follower of the Way of the Leaf?
No, I am. But I'm saying I think most Wheel of Time fans are not necessarily. So I think it's harder for some people to relate to it. But I think when you see this, then a lot more people are going to relate to it and understand.
Rebecca, it's very funny you say that.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, I'm Aram.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
I've hitchhiked cross country 3 times. I used to follow the Grateful Dead. I was in a Renaissance group with a lot of hippies.
Oh.
And thumbing it and panhandling and making food from nothing and not fighting or violence. And then I became Aram.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's very, very crazy because this moment is the first time I really realized that.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I hope you don't have a Massima. Can I just say that?
Yeah.
I don't have a Masema.
Okay, good.
Nobody needs a Masema.
This
But
episode. Oh, go.
But I do have a sword.
Okay.
So this
Go with the
episode does
sword.
like have like certain faith elements to it.
Oh yeah.
There was, so we have where Lan is doing some prayer ceremony that we kind of talked on, and it's for Malkier. I'm not sure how he learned it since he was a baby when he left, but maybe he looked it up on Google. I'm just
Well,
kidding.
if they bring in some of the new spring elements, then he had presumably he would have had some adult Malkiri looking out for him.
Yeah, I was just playing.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's this where it is referred specifically to prayer. We also have Isla, who is sacrificing or trying to create a better world for reincarnation. Again, these faith-based elements don't necessarily pop up too often within the books themselves. There is some prayer, there is, or like some like that ritual quote by my light salvation. That
there's a catechism
thing, that rote thing. Yeah, a catechism. That's it. But here it seems that faith seems to be a bit more a part of this world. Did you guys see that at all?
I do. And, we're going to delve into that a little more next week, in fact, when we're talking about, like, faith-based procedures that they did in this, on the show.
Right, the rituals, yes.
The rituals that they did, and they've done at least 4 so far, with different things. But, I think that they show, especially with the Tuathan, they show what it means to be devout.
Yeah.
It's what it means to believe in something, and other than the children of the light. They show what, and they have people with faith, which I think brings cohesion to, this show. They have people who have a philosophy, and there's all of us know that there are way more people who have different philosophies that will be coming. But as the person who hasn't read these books, the person who's just watching this, it gives some cohesion to the world around them. They're like, okay, there are rules other than the law for our characters. There are people that won't do things and will do things. And it's a good way to bring good and bad into this for the viewer that's never read this entire season.
I agree.
This episode and next week do a lot of that.
Yes. And we were talking about Rand and Matt earlier, and so they go into, when we open up the scene with Matt and Rand and Tom, we are in a place which is different from where they were in the books. Tom never made it to the Grinwells.
Nope.
In the books, but they all got there together, and we meet, Master Grinwell and his wife, and we also meet some of their children. And in
the books, he is initially suspicious of them as well.
Yes, but there is one character that is missing from the Grinwell, and that's
someone else.
Els Grinwell. Who
I see what you did there, Glenn.
Yeah. And there's one more, isn't there?
No, what else is, so this is the interesting thing with the captions and whatnot. And in fact, this scene, I do have a tiny little beef with the extras because there were screenshots, right?
Yeah.
I went through the entire extras. There were screenshots. There was a note, quote, a Fade massacred the entire Grinwell family, and Tom risked his life fighting the Fade to allow Rand and Matt to escape.
Mhm.
Yes.
To me, that was not really clear who was responsible for this massacre, and I kind of wish that Amazon would have just kind of kept the ambiguity present instead of just saying, "Don't worry, guys, Matt didn't kill Elsa."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get
Right.
it somewhat because in the very next episode, they bring that up directly, right? Like Matt is afraid that he did
Yeah.
do it, and Rand has been reassuring him again and again and again that he didn't. So, from Rand's perspective, at least, it was clear to him that Matt
And
was not
before
responsible.
they died, one small thing that they did, which I liked because they did this in the book, when Rand and Matt were traveling and the shadow logo was starting to take effect on Matt was started getting extremely suspicious of everyone,
Right.
to the point where Rand was like, "You're not acting like yourself." But what they did say was that children were the only thing that could bring him out of that.
I remember.
And that is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
She brought him out of it for a little bit. And I thought that that was brilliant how they did that. And it was very sweet. And it was very, very Matrim Coffin.
Very. And it made even more sense in the context of the show where it has the closeness with his younger sisters. That we know he has younger sisters in the books, but we don't see whatever relationship he has with them. And here we've gotten to realize how important his sisters are to him.
Yeah. Oh, they made his relationship with his sisters way better, I believe, on the show than they did in the books, because all he thinks about is them tattling on him.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's not concerned about them.
I think they're a lot older in the books too.
They're
they're a lot older.
Not quite so little. Yeah, they're closer in age to Matt in the books, I believe.
Although,
in this scene,
Matt's the one who is getting paranoid, but who is the one who was paranoid at the beginning of this episode between Matt and Rand? It was Rand who was paranoid at Tom at the beginning of this episode.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yes.
So I always found that a little weird that they gave those lines to Rand at this point.
Well, see, the thing is, I think that they're using that because I believe Tom and Matt are going to have a way bigger relationship together in the series, just like they did in the book. And I think that they use that to segue away for them to actually still be really close. Because I believe, I think in the books, Rand reminded Tom of Owen. But I think in the show, Matt does.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's true. And the other thing to point out about the part about Rand being paranoid is there's a lot of parallels between Rand and Matt and how they're behaving, and because it's somewhat misdirection, right? So at some point in this episode, Tom is talking about the kinds of things that happen to Owen when he was channeling and the way he's behaving. And we see that some of those things are happening with Matt. So we're like, he believes that Matt can channel, and the audience who hasn't read the books may also believe that Matt can channel. But some of those same things are also happening with Rand. Like he's been like inexplicably like outbursting at people who he cares about. We've seen that in previous episodes. So I wouldn't throw out the idea that like Rand's suspicion towards Tom and some of how he's been behaving could be related to what's going on with him, so I think that there's some deliberate parallels between Rand and Matt.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think so too. I think that what's going on with Rand and Matt, I really liked the scene with Matt and Elsa Grinwell, the little girl, when she brought him bread. I thought when I first saw it, I was like, oh, because Matt was just barfing up.
Disgusting mashadar.
He's barfing up mashadar. So I have a question. Let's do a theoretical. Let's say Matt captured his vomit into a cup that had a lid. He has mashadar in a cup now.
Makes sense.
And then he leaves, and then Mashadar gets out in like a week. Is Mashadar going to chase Rand or Matt and chase the dagger, or is it just going to feed on the Grinwell farm and then just spread out?
Yeah, I mean, That is a good question. I'm just gonna like in my head make it work the way it worked in the show, which is that like, it stays with the dagger basically.
Yeah.
In order for other people to be corrupted,
I
they
agree.
need to be in close proximity to the dagger, that it can't like spread out from there.
I agree.
Because I just think the like mechanics of it, like if you couldn't contain it within an object, like the whole world would be Shudder Logoth otherwise.
And that'd be an extra $1 million in production too.
Well, I mean, I was just, that's what exercises. But you're right, Rebecca. The whole world would be Meshadar then, if it could just spread. I wonder if it would just die then if you left a little piece.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe it needs a
Mashadar
certain
in a cup is
critical
not
mass.
something I ever want to hear again.
Yeah, no,
Mashadar.
let's forget that ever happened.
Mashadar in a cup. No, thank you.
One
Yeah.
cup.
But yeah, I guess
No, thank
we're just from what we've seen too, we see it like kind of like some portion of it at least go back into Matt. So maybe it's either it's like going back into him or going back into the dagger. Yeah. And like in episode 6 where we see it like being pulled out of him like in a great amount too. Like
And we know it's not contagious because Rand is more or less spooning Matt at one point, and he's like, "I'm gonna be with you forever, bro. Don't worry about this." And then blows out the candle.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Now,
Back.
what's really cool is something I'm really happy to start talking about, because after this scene, we flash back to the Aes Sedai. And, we get some really, really, really good information from Alana and Moraine, talking to each other. And we also get something, and this may be one of the only things I didn't like. See, I don't believe that you should ever bring random characters into a show unless they have a distinct purpose.
Okay.
Jenny the dog kind of upset me a little bit.
Okay.
Because this was out of nowhere, out of nothing. There was never a Jenny, there was never a dog. But I guess they used it to break the ice between Moraine and Alana to start talking. And believe me, I thought that Alana's monologue to Moraine about the Green Aja and being able to explain that to the viewers, I thought it was awesome because it was so simplistic, but it had so much information.
I think we learned a ton about Alana in this episode, way more than we know about her until much later. So they did a good job.
She became the beloved character in this show more so than she did in the books.
Oh yeah. We also, I also feel for Liandrin. I think that she has the right of it here. They are wasting a lot of precious effort in controlling this dude. And if you can't tie that weave off and do it, then you solve the problem and move on.
I agree with you.
Is much more interesting and much more compelling, and
KayK Fleetwood is also she's amazing. Incredible. And I think that she was cast perfectly.
She was done. She was really well cast.
I love KayK Fleetwood. Oh my gosh!
With the way they're handling Liandrin, I think she's perfect for the part here.
Yeah.
But this is a situation where the Aes Sedai would be, suited to having some herbalism skills, because you could have just kept Logain drugged and unable to do anything.
Yeah,
Nynaeve could do it.
Fork root.
Why the other 7 Aes Sedai?
Haven't found fork root yet. Now,
really.
Why the other 7 Aes Sedai there couldn't link to create a link to shield him? I don't know. There were other there were ways to handle this.
I mean, if you had everybody there doing it all the time, then nobody gets
everybody. But there was 7 other Aes Sedai back at the camp when the attack happened.
I think
So-
there's 7 total, not
so that's-
including
I think there's
that's-
7 total as well.
Well, there's at least the 4 mean girls
4
amongst
reds,
the reds. We saw
2 greens,
multiple greens.
at
Yeah,
least
there's
2,
there's 3 greens and there's
3
4 reds and then there's Moraine. That's
and
it.
then there's Moraine.
Okay.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Then she was. There must be 9 of them because she wouldn't have been counting herself and Leandrin when Karene said 7, or Leandrin said 7, or an army can't get past 7 fully trained Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
So there had to have been 7 out there still. So
Um,
6
Did say
plus
that.
Moraine. 6
Yeah,
plus
she did say
Moraine.
that.
Yeah, anyway, I mean, I've definitely counted all of the Aes Sedai.
Yeah,
There's
just-
8, including Moraine, total
Okay.
in the whole camp.
Okay.
All right. So there's still the others could have linked to fill in one of those 2 seats. You know, 3
Yeah.
women
Right.
sitting as one with a 4th person doing her by herself.
Yeah, I'm
That
not
could have
sure
worked, you know, and then
why
spread
they
it around.
Didn't have the weaker Aes Sedai do a circle to guard him sometimes. I'm not sure
Yeah.
why. Yeah.
And why
And
you
maybe
sent
they-
weak Aes Sedai out after a man who can channel anyways.
Yeah, maybe they
Well-
were building a wagon to transport him.
Yeah,
because
I'm
we
not
find
sure
that he-
why they didn't send their strongest, but I think they did underestimate Logain's power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well,
By a
they
lot.
said it. Yeah, they said
Because-
it.
Alana says he's the strongest I've ever seen. Like, you know, he probably blew them away. They were not prepared for how strong he was going to be.
And one other thing that, and this is actually very large. One thing that Alana says to the audience that we haven't really heard yet. She's fearful that the Reds are going to gentle the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah.
That is a gigantic, enormous piece of information for this series.
Yeah.
You know, it's in some instances the reason why this series is a series. You know, like it's huge.
It is.
And-
And you also recognize that, like, Leandrin isn't thinking about that. She doesn't care, right?
No.
So it's a difference
not
there
at all.
between whether
Exactly.
it's between greens and reds or whether it's something more specific to Alana. But that some Aes Sedai would be concerned about that and others do not care.
Right. They're
Not at
all
all.
nails to the hammers that are the Red Ange.
Mhm.
I mean,
Hey
and
guys,
that- and
let's
I-
if I can real fast, but let's tiny little break. We do have a sponsor, and I'd
Yes,
like
we do.
to throw a little love out to Tourist Hat right now. Ryan had made a tiny little video, and my hand is sweaty, so I need to wipe it on a towel. So I'm gonna play
Okay.
this real
Alright.
fast, and then
Okay,
we'll be
let's
right
do
back
it.
in less than a minute.
We the Leaf are proud to be partnering with Tourist Hat Coffee Company. Tourist Hat Coffee Company is a family-owned business with a strong belief in giving back to the community. Tourist Hat Coffee Company is a social purpose business whose mission is to bring people the absolute best in small batch coffee while supporting children at home and around the world. And if you go to touristhatcoffeecompany.com and use the promo code LEAF2022, you'll get 5% off your entire order. We hope Tourist Hat Coffee Company becomes your family's coffee of choice. Remember, a part of each order goes to an amazing charity and helps allow us to continue doing this show each and every week. So go to touristhatcoffeecompany.com and use promo code LEAF2022 and receive 5% off your entire order.
That's right. When you check
Hey.
out it, just put in LeafCast 2022, and you'll get a discount. And these guys are awesome. Ryan found them. He's friends of theirs through a farmer's market he would go to every Thursday or something. And so they're local. They're their own small thing, and 5% is actually a big deal to do because they're super cheap. So check them out. Tourist Hat Coffee Company. All right, thanks.
Right on. Okay, let's get back into it. So, where we're at now is that we're still at the Aes Sedai camp, and we're talking about, Logain and the Aes Sedai, how many of them there are, and what's about to happen. And what's about to happen is that band of Aes Sedai is about to get attacked.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And they're going to get attacked by Logain's followers. Now, they talked about this in the book, but they didn't talk about it terribly too much. And so, which is great for a production because you can use that to get some things out.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we got out were obviously Logain got captured and his army was destroyed.
I think in the books they say, "Oh, and we lost 2 sisters" or something along those lines.
Yes. Moraine and Lan found out in where is it? They found Baerlon.
Oh, okay, Baerlon. Yeah,
it was Baerlon that by the gatekeeper that they had sent the Aes Sedai and some of them to capture the false dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And they found out that he did get captured.
Yeah.
And, you know, when Moraine in the book first found out about this, she was very nervous and had some, you know, things to think about because she wasn't 100% convinced that it might be Rand. You know, and she was worried every time she heard about a new false dragon or knew something. She was like, "Oh no, who is it? What's going on? Like, why is there another one?" You know, so they weren't 100% convinced.
Right.
She was being there every day, though.
But the first time we see Logain in the books is Rand had climbed the wall in Andor, was sitting up, and the procession was on the way to Tar Valon, stopped by Caemlyn, and to present Logain to the Queen.
Yes.
So that's the first time we see Logain in the book. So, and he's already captured. We hear later that there's manic stuff that's gone on in Galdon, but it is all for the most part off book.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see, like the opening scene, having Galdon like half burning. We don't need a whole army to know that there's shit going down. And with this capture drama, where we can say that 2 Aes Sedai did get killed if we count the yellow that got her hands cut off, which we assume was part of that group. Maybe
you would think that they would want a yellow sister with them on something like somebody got hurt.
It would make sense. Yeah.
Don't yellows have warders?
Yellows can have warders. Yeah.
They can. Not all of them do, but yes, they can have warders.
Okay. So I mean, we know of at least 2 who then did die. So if that tracks, that tracks, and it's nice to see that. So this all this stuff was off page in the books themselves.
Yes. Now they do also talk about a few sisters in the book that the White Cloaks did get.
Mm-hmm.
And they even say every time a sister goes missing, that's the first person we think about is that the White Cloaks, you know. So, you know, the White Cloaks are always going to be actively trying to execute sisters because, once again, that's their belief system. And I believe that I actually believe, and this isn't a bad thing. I think that this episode took a little bit too much time on certain things and could have added a few other things.
Okay.
Like I think we had way too much time with Egwene and Piran with the Tuathon, and the reason for that is because we didn't get much of Egwene's character development while she was there. In fact. She was the only one of all the 5 who got the least amount of character development, I believe. She didn't get. I mean, I thought that they could have done a few more things to help her move along with her character development, like the other people, like our other stars. And
Jansen, all right, just real fast. So at the end, we generally do. Wait, Mom, 5 more minutes. And so that would be, if we only had 5 more minutes, what would we add? And mine would have been that Elaine would have talked with Isla. We would have had those. Yeah, about Aram.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
I think that would have been good, and mine for the end.
Say again?
I'm going to save the one I think for the end.
Okay, yeah. Good. I mean, you brought it up, and I was like, oh, man, that was like, my wait, Mom, 5 more minutes. All right.
And so, you know, we got the majority of the time of this episode within the Aes Sedai camp, and I think that was a good choice because they were, they were the biggest band and they had the most stakes in this episode. And once the fight happened and everything, all the chaos started, then we start delving into some other things in this episode that we had in the books. And, I know that this is a production, this is one of the things they do in production is they really, really want to get things out there quickly to the viewers. Now, in the book, it took a very long time for Nynaeve's powers to manifest.
Yes.
It didn't take that long in the show at all. Now, when Moiraine first met Nynaeve, she felt her power.
Yes.
She knew how strong she was in the book.
Right.
But no one thought that Nynaeve was going to get like a supercharge like this in the show.
Hell no. And not this.
I mean, I think it's like you said, though, it's like we're told that Nynaeve has this enormous potential. She's so powerful because Moiraine can feel it.
Yes.
And so, hey, this is a good way to communicate. Like, Nynaeve is incredibly powerful.
It is. And then they also used Logain to prove that Nynaeve actually TAVERN.
Right.
Because of his talent.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. So,
you know what I mean? Like,
we asked about I think, no, this came from Sarah Nakamura on Twitter. She talked about like what like Logain could see, and I don't think she answered that specifically, but just another thing that he's seeing is like Nynaeve producing like shock waves, like of like the power, like he's responding to like what she's doing with the power. So like she clarified that like he can't see her weaves because people had questions about that, like why is he saying she's like a raging sun, and yeah, it is possible that he is seeing like a TAVERN glow around her too.
Well, he also said like a raging sun. Now if we remember, if we go back to the Eye of the World in the books, actually not even the Eye of the World, the Great Hunt, Swan Sanche says to Moiraine he shined like the sun, but she was referring to Rand. But
so I will acknowledge what has been said online, what has been said by people part of the thing. Looking at the dang film or digital film, I mean, the whole room lights up. Logain covers his eyes, and there's a shadow over his face as he's doing it, like a cinematic shadow. And so and then he says, like a raging sun. It to me, it seems really hard to backpedal from the fact that he saw an enormous light.
So
he did see a light. What he's seeing is a secondary. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
he's seeing a secondary result of the channeling. He's not seeing the Saidar that she's channeling in the glow that women would see. It's like thinking it. I'm trying to think of the term D&D used. When you would do something, there would just be the flash isn't the effect. It's a side effect, but it's not the effect of the power. What's coming out, like if I was shooting magic missiles, that would be the effect. The flash at my hand, just a side effect. Everybody could see.
So everyone is seeing the room bright up. I mean, so this is the second time, or Nynaeve does this later when in the ways where she blows up and all the key, like the whispers go away, and it seems that everyone kind of squints as well, and it's hard to say that isn't seen.
And again, I think what Glenn is saying, and I agree, is that Nynaeve is creating light effects with her channeling that can be seen. So people aren't seeing the weaves, and it may be because she doesn't know what she's doing. It's just bursting out of her by instinct.
Right.
So she's not doing any sort of deliberate like weaving of the power. She just wants to create an effect, and it's just sort of like exploding out of her. So she's doing secondary things with the power without meaning to. including making light effects.
Yeah.
And I hear you.
The
The answer on Twitter just seemed a little ambiguous. It seemed like, nah, he's not seeing it.
Right. I mean,
I
I
think
think
Lan
that
would
what
have
she,
seen everything
I think
Logan,
she's
so-
saying what we're saying, but but she didn't go into as much detail, maybe because it's a Twitter thread where you have limited text to work with.
Yeah.
But I think, I think that Nynaeve is doing unintentional things in her channeling because hasn't been taught. So she's just doing, so she makes light incidentally.
At the bare minimum, you're seeing her braids whip up and unravel. So you're seeing a Medusa effect, even if you're not seeing light or anything. You're still seeing suddenly she's doing this and her hair's going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's seeing multiple things, and it is possible that he could be seeing the TAVERN glow as well. If they're keeping that ability of his in the show, then he probably would be seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only issue is that he doesn't see it until she essentially channels. So
True.
That's my only negation.
But he also would have had no opportunity to look at her until then because he's kept off in his own space and she didn't go in there to see him.
Oh, you're right. Oh, okay.
That's true.
Well, you know what, Rebecca? I yield. I love it.
That's why I got her on my show, so we had someone that could think things through.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, she puts a cork in all my bullshit. She's like, well, no.
There's also we find
welcome to my world.
There is an entire city missing in this episode that was in the book.
No Caitlin.
No Caitlin. And because of that, one of my favorite characters in the book we don't get as well. Mr. Almond Bunt.
Almond Bunt.
We don't get Almond Bunt. Who actually shows up.
Do you think we'll get him next season?
I don't know.
No, maybe
I don't think so.
Maybe.
I don't
Getting
think
him would be a piece of cake.
He but I do think we will eventually get a few of those
dummy Glenn
that we met. But instead of going to Camelin, they go straight to Tar-Valon. And I'm not going to go any further into that because they're not there yet. But they're on their way to Tar-Valon instead of to Camelin first. And we don't get a lot of the interactions that we get in the book between Matt and Rand because they really, really cut that down as far as them traveling. They cut a lot of that down. And I understand why, because it was a little redundant to do that in a production when you know that they're going through trials and they know they're hiding from Dark Friends. There's not many needs to put 3 or 4 of those in the way. So therefore, we don't get Pater
don't
either.
miss him.
And we also
the coolest Dark Friend ever.
Yeah, we also don't get, and I do believe we will at some point get a Millie Skane, but we don't get her either. And she's a major part of the Dark Friend realm in the books through many, many, many books. And she actually has a character arc in the books.
Yeah, but there's
she probably is dry. But
she develops. She gets stronger. She gets promoted. She is one of the best assassins that the Shadow has.
So, by the way, Jansen is pro Millie Skane. Just so you know,
we know.
I do like Millie.
Jansen does love him some Millie Skane.
I do like Millie Skane. She's very crafty.
Do have the traveling. So I guess when they get to the farm and Matt is all agitated and Rand tries to be the diplomat, that might be the summary of like their travels, right? Where that was kind of Rand's role because Matt started to get difficult, and then later they're spooning and Rand's like, I'm not going to leave you.
Yeah,
that pretty much defined their trip. They had adventures and stuff, they had dangers, but that was pretty much their trip. Matt was going to be a little difficult, and Rand was going to be like, don't worry, I'm going to try and smooth things over and I'm not going to leave you regardless.
I think the thing that I think they hit all the elements of their trip except performing. There was nothing about them like performing.
And we'll never see that.
No, never.
Yeah, we'll never see.
No, unless Josha learns to juggle.
But Josha never juggled. It was Matt, remember?
Matt was the juggler.
Matt was the juggler because Tom told Matt, remember, that he had the fastest hands he had ever seen.
So Rand played the pipe?
Flute.
Yes.
Yep. The flute. Right. I have a question for you guys about that scene when they first encounter the Grenwell, since we go back to the farm there.
Yeah.
Did Rand succeed in talking Mr. Grenwell down because TAVERN, or because he passed his charisma bluff check?
I think it's TAVERN, personally.
I think it's TAVERN.
You think it was TAVERN? You don't think he talked him down naturally?
No, I think
it's hard to
Well, he
separate.
kind of did call his bluff, though. He said, if you wanted to kill us, you would have held that with your fingertips.
That's true.
And if I wanted to kill you, I wouldn't have talked to you. Hey, bro, we're all cool, right? So I think he kind of called his bluff, but he did have backup right behind them that would have got him too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
And they also, I don't know if you missed, Matt goes for his dagger.
Yeah.
In this scene.
And
I'm really glad they did that, because that is what he would have done in the book. I'm really glad they showed that little thing. And that was something for us who have read this series and know about it. And it was something they added just so we, can call legitimacy on it. And I'm glad that they did that, And it shows me that Rafe Judkins is doing things for us, the readers, that he knows that people who are seeing this for the first time aren't going to even spot.
Yeah.
And that makes me very happy about that.
It may give them a clue that what Tom's attributing all to Matt's ability to channel, supposedly, it actually, when we find out that it isn't that, you can look back and you can go, okay, yeah, there was indications that there was something else going on.
Yeah. Okay. So I know we're on a few time constraints considering how long we've been doing these.
Yeah, we're right at just past 90 minutes. Do we have like another 10, 12, 15
I
minutes?
do have another 10, because now we're going to talk about, where we ended in this episode.
Okay.
And where we ended in this episode, the big ending obviously was another tactic that they were using to draw more, audience, and to keep the people who have never read this series speculating and understanding. And that was that they are insinuating that Nynaeve may be the Dragon Reborn.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I, if I would have, I would have enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know how I am, and I know how I speculate, and I'm like, well, it's got to be her.
Yeah.
She's the one. It's got to be her.
Well,
she found her way.
The voice that Logain hears is female, and he thinks is a dragon. So it emphasizes the fact that it could be male or female.
That is a fantastic point that I never thought about. I love that.
That's a good point. And also they brought up in this episode the recollection of what Dana said about there being 5 in her dreams, not 4. Yep. So that is,
so that means the Shadow knew more than Moraine might have at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Although I'm still wondering who's spreading the rumor that there are TAVERN in this little village that nobody ever seems to come in or out of.
Well, it's got to be Fane.
Out on Fane.
It's got to be. He's the only one it could be.
The only person I can think.
Yeah, it's got to be
But
Fane.
it's still just...
Yeah, that's the only thing I think that makes sense. Is Pot on Fane.
Yeah,
I mean, if you removed the fact that they said that there was rumors of 4 TAVERN and you just left it as rumors of TAVERN, then it could be anybody, because if you had like unusual occurrences in the 2 rivers, that people heard about, that could create the rumors that people knew what TAVERN was, and then you have people doing the kinds of weird stuff that like Rand causes in the Dragon Reborn when he's like moving through towns and like everybody's getting married or like they're finding like gold, buried under a well or some weird stuff like that.
And you're right. And Rebecca, that's something else too. In the books, we didn't hear about TAVERN until Loyal.
Right.
Loyal was the one who brought all of the TAVERN stuff to us in the book, but it was out there from the very beginning in the show.
Yes, although not
defined
explained.
it for us when we first heard it too. No, when Loyal, he defines it for Rand when we first hear it from Loyal.
In the book.
But on the show, we have yet to have it defined. I think the X-rays might have had it in one of them.
I think it is in the X-ray. Yeah, it's not explained. Maureen mentions the word and then it's not mentioned again because the focus has shifted to, instead of the focus being on, okay, some of these people are TAVERN, the focus is on one of these people is the Dragon Reborn. And that's how we're, saying that these particular people are important and kind of leaving the TAVERN word aside until it gets picked up again later.
Okay. Yeah. TAVERN-ness, it has been mentioned. It hasn't really been emphasized.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all.
All right. So let's go. Jansen, what else before we jump into the Wait Mom 5 more minutes?
The what? Oh, the 5 more minutes? I think I'm mostly done because there's so many things that I don't want to give away for the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because the next episode, it meshes into this one so much that, but don't get me wrong, there's a lot to talk about in the next episode too. An incredible amount, which I actually can't wait for. This is going to be awesome. I think that how they crafted everything differently, specifically from a production standpoint, were the things that they needed to do. And it's really, really hard, I understand, to tell true fans production and don't know how it is to make a film and how many people it takes to make a film, how many different writers that they have to throw away paper after paper after paper to get it right. And I know that some of them are upset about certain things, but you have to understand what it takes to make a film or to make a show. And the constraints that Rafe Judkins has, he's working with them extremely well, I think. I think he's doing a tip-top job.
Yeah, this was a good episode. This is
it was one of my favorites, definitely, without question.
Definitely a good episode.
So I said earlier, if I could add 5 more minutes, I'm not trying to change anything. I'm just trying to add something. Yep. I would have had another Egwene scene. She was in the back seat, as you say, Jansen. Everything focused more or less on Perrin, besides Aram just kind of saying, "Hey, who's got your heart? Is he gone?" And she's like, "Nope."
Yeah.
He's like, "All right, peace." So I think that if she had also a talk with Isla, where it seemed like Aram was, where she says you can see he likes you, kind of thing, and her saying, "What, really?" and kind of, I don't know, 5 minutes of that.
Segue from there, yeah.
Just give Egwene a little bit more. I would have liked, but the episode did not lack information as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So if I had 5 minutes, this is what I would have had. I would have had Elaine in a dream sequence, seeing Matt choose one path where he gets a hat, seeing Rand with dragons flying onto his arm, and seeing Perrin with the wolf.
Okay.
And it could have been very small, but very quick flashes. But I think that they should, like they started manifesting everyone else's quote unquote powers. I also got that as well. That's what
You're right. We've had a couple dreams, and it's not been Egwene's.
Yeah, exactly. And she's a dreamer, and I think that that would have been, for me, I think that would have been really nice to see her, because I think they all should, everyone manifested their powers, started manifesting things except for her. To the most extent, obviously, Nynaeve, but I do think I would have liked to have seen her start to maturate as well, like everyone else is starting to.
I love that. Hey, nice. I know
Yeah.
we're just springing this on you, Rebecca and Glenn, but do you have anything if you're like, hey, wait, Mom, 5 more minutes?
Oh,
Go for it, Glenn.
I got one. I would like to see Tom perform for the Grinwells. Whether it's be singing, I would have preferred, as someone who can juggle myself, I would have preferred seeing a juggling routine, but who knows if the actor can actually juggle, so that brings about some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But, with CG, you can get around that. But, yeah, I would have liked to have seen Tom.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really hard to get 10 balls, going at once.
Yeah. But Glenn, you make a very good point, because that is canonical within that scene where Tom was sitting there drinking. He's like, well, I gotta, keep my strength up for performing. And they're like, well, you just brought it up right when we started mucking the.
Yep, that's right.
Once they handed out the pitchforks, you said, well, hey, wait, I'll perform for you. So that would have been great. That would have fit right in to have a little performance where he's doing like a little ABC song or whatever, like Old Tongue.
And it would echo back to the books where Matt and Tom both performed, I do believe, at the Grinwells that night. I'm pretty sure they performed at the Grinwells, in addition to farm work.
Because that was how they got the idea of performing at inns, I believe. Because like after that point is when they really needed to be performing at inns, and that gave them the idea, actually. So
I mean, there was no flight down the Arenelles, so there's no Bale Dome on for them to start doing it on the boat. So
right. Cool. Yeah, I like that.
We got a little bit more glee from the Gleeman.
Yeah, actually, so I'm kind of convinced by some of the ideas I've heard here. But another thought that I had coming into this was that I would have liked a nod at the part I mentioned that you just really didn't make it in at all, of like Matt and Rand performing. If Tom had even like offered to like teach them, like sort of that was, because he says he has this plan of like staying with them as long as he can. So like seeing that he had larger plans there of like, how is he going to protect them? How are they going to live? Like, so if he offers to teach them and there's even a hint of that might have been nice to see. But I think that what you guys have said about Egwene is right. And she is the character who had the least development in this particular episode. Like other episodes, I think the next episode is really good for her. But in this one, she doesn't have much. And I like the idea of her having a conversation with Isla as well. Who's going to say no to doing more Maria Doyle Kennedy? So like, that's a great choice. And I love the dream idea. I don't think I would have shown exactly the same things you're suggesting, Jansen, because I think it would have given away that Rand is the dragon if they had done that in particular. But I do love the idea of starting to see Egwene's power manifest earlier, and again to give a little bit more of a push to the idea that Egwene could be the dragon, because they're kind of trying to cast suspicion on all of these characters through different things, and they don't really do much of that for Egwene. Like I would be surprised if anyone watching this for the first time, not having read, were like, yeah, I think Egwene's the dragon. I don't think they really put much attention in her direction, to be honest.
I agree. And for the most part, she has just kind of been there, especially with I don't know. As far as like, if you're gonna pick out of the 5, then I don't know. She's bottom of the pack to a certain degree. But then again, Lan was like, "Is Logain as strong as Egwene?" And she's like, "I don't know. Maybe, probably not."
Right. They're hinting that Egwene is very strong, but we haven't really seen anything to that effect yet. Again, I think next episode. Episode 5 is an awesome Egwene episode. So there's a lot more to talk about for her in that one. But I think, it would have been nice to have more of her in this.
I agree. I feel more comfortable with that view. Jansen just froze. He texted me.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and shall we wrap this up? I mean,
yeah.
Okay. Hey guys, you guys have been awesome.
Thank you.
What the adaptation you guys have done a lot of fantasy books. You've done a lot of. You are now on. Say again, The Shadow, was it?
The Sandman is what we're covering now. But yeah, we've also, of course, started with The Wheel of Time. We've done 2 seasons of The Witcher. We've done 1 season of The Expanse, and some other like one-offs and things like that too.
3 different shows on Dune movies.
Yeah.
So, and we got 3 more coming next year.
Well, when you do Game of Thrones, man, I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. Yeah, there's so much that can be done.
Guys, so WOT the Adaptation, please go on their YouTube, hit the subscribe for real. I mean,
thank you.
We're all in like droughts since the show's been kind of in doldrums. We've all been doldrums. Yeah, guys, get them at least 2 or 3 subs, would you? There's 23 people right now, 24. Go to WOT the Adaptation and please just sub. It's a fun show.
And also, like you said, it's sad to be in a sort of Wheel of Time drought, but there's other great, fantasy shows, sci-fi shows, and things like that we can talk about. So, that's the fun of it, is getting to look at other titles too.
We have a glut of topics to discuss.
True.
Right. You guys have been really longtime friends of ours.
Yes,
Glenn,
thank you. Yes.
Like I said, you were at our first show. You have been in our chat consistently and awesomely. You do every time you're in. You enhance the experience. And Rebecca, we've known you for a while. You're part of Dragon Mount now, aren't you?
I do a lot of stuff. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I am. I do social media for Dragon Mount. We've been doing similar to what you're doing here, but with a different approach. We've been doing a rewatch of season 1. We're a little bit ahead of you guys. So tomorrow night, we're live rewatching episode 7. And so it's like, we're watching the episode and giving commentary. And so actually it pairs nicely with this that you guys are doing, because you can watch the episode with Dragon Mount and then come back later for the deep dive, after you've rewatched the episode with us. So, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, your best friend Rafe sometimes answer questions.
Yes, Rafe has been answering questions about each episode. So that's part of the Dragon Mount rewatch, is you can help us pick a question to ask about each episode. And then everybody, comes up with questions. We end up narrowing it down, and we pick one. And Rafe has been answering some cool questions about each episode. So that is fun.
Yeah, and it's really the only thing he's been doing on Twitter now.
Yes.
Is responding to you guys in the last 2 or 3 months. So and the chance to be able to actually submit a question is awesome, and it should be taken advantage of. And we have some smart people in chat.
Watch with us live. So 9 o'clock Mondays on all the Dragon Mount channels, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, everything. Come watch live with us and help us pick a question. We've got 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks.
That's
and since we're plugging stuff, we're running with Tom. We're doing it's called Watch Me Be Creative. It is a writing contest. We have 2 prizes of new spring hardcover editions. One is for the best short story flash fiction, Wheel of Time, something 3,000 words or less. The other is a poem, 50 lines or less. Has to be Wheel of Time related. You can interpret that any way you want. So be creative with that if you like. Spelling counts. I do not like bad spelling. And it's until December 6th. And we pick I think December 6th is when we close it. And December 18th is when we announce the winner. So get in there on our Twitter page at Leaf_cast. We have the Google Doc. Sign in, submit, and win. We want to see you guys be creative. So do it. Glenn, is there anything you want to mention?
I think that was all I had. We just come watch WOT the Adaptation. We're going to be finishing up the rest of this season 1 of The Sandman, and in February we start season 2 of The Expanse, another Amazon show that wasn't from Amazon at the time, but another reason to stay watching Amazon Prime and come watch our show next month.
Is awesome if you haven't watched it or read it. It's so good. I love it.
One of the best science fiction shows ever.
Absolutely.
Give me the 20 second. What is The Expanse?
What is The Expanse about? Okay, so human beings have populated the solar system. So the human population has exploded. Humans live on the moon, they live on Mars, and they live in the belt, the outer planets. There are stations, and so they they built stations, as well as building stations out of like asteroids. So the big thing about it initially is that people who live in the outer planets or in the belt have grown up and live in like low gravity, and it makes like an entirely different like class of people who like they can't live on a planet like Earth or Mars, and there's always like shortages of water, air, and then some really weird stuff starts happening. Ships get blown up and we don't know why. And just like some very mysterious and creepy things are appearing in the solar system, and we don't know what is up with it.
And tons of politics.
Yeah, lots of politics. It's just, there's so much more to it, but yeah, if you enjoy sci-fi at all, it's just so good. Yeah, my favorite.
Well, guys, there you go. And
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. Thank you for being on. We are The Way to Leaf. We're here Tuesdays and Sundays. We'll see you actually, we're not here next Tuesday. I don't think we're going to be on for the next couple Tuesdays because we just finished the book and we're doing New Spring next. And I think we're waiting until after Christmas. I'm not really sure, but we are definitely not this Tuesday. And shit, I don't know about this Sunday either because we have What a Holiday coming up. So we have What a Holiday. We're on 2 shows there. We're on Morgan's at 1 a.m. Eastern, and then we are doing Watchinary at 6 p.m. Yeah. So we're busy. We'll post on Twitter what's going on. I apologize. I don't have my stuff together. But anyways, thanks for hanging out with us. I love you, and I'm proud of you.
Thanks for having us.
Do your best, guys. This week, go kill this week. And run for your lives or link arms and get punched. Whichever. That is the way of the leaf.